Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to AI for School Leaders, a free webinar presented by the Missouri School Boards Association and School AI. My name is Mark Henderson. I am the Director of AI Strategies and Services with MSBA, and you know that because it says it right down there. I will be with you for the next hour. Thank you for being here, and I'm thrilled that I will be joined by this guy through the magic of the internet, Matt Argybright. Matt, why don't you introduce yourself?
Perfect. Thanks, Mark. My name is Matt Argybright, joining you from the Kansas City area. I'm a former fifth grade teacher in the KC area and now with School AI, and excited to talk about AI and all the possibilities and the great work they're doing at Missouri School Boards.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. And I forgot to mention that I am also a former educator. I was a high school English teacher. So Matt and I both have that in the classroom perspective, and now we have different perspectives on it as well. So let's talk about what we're going to cover in the next hour. We're going to throw a lot at you, but the good news is you will get a recording of this. You can rewatch it. We'll also send you out the slides. So you have it, and you can also have our email addresses. We're going to start with some AI basics to get you kind of an understanding. Nothing too technical, I promise. Then we're going to look at ways that teachers and students can use AI in their work. We're going to give you some safety and security concerns that need to be on your radar. And finally, we're going to talk about AI district policy and why you need one and what it should entail. We'd love for you to open up the chat, click the little chat button down in there at the bottom, and talk to us, ask us questions, give us feedback. We'll have some interactive elements for you throughout the hour. So we also want to invite you to a special free workshop coming up on April 3rd, which is only a month away now, called Spring into AI. It's going to be in Jefferson City at our new training facility there. And you can come to that along with your colleagues. You just have to go to mosba.org/AI. And I would encourage you to do that soon because space is limited. School AI is going to buy lunch for everybody. I mean, who doesn't love free food? Matt and I will be there. We'll both be presenting. We'll have some folks from DESE with us as well to share about their philosophies on AI. And our goal really won't be repeating what you hear today. The goal is going to be to help you come up with a plan for your district. Wherever you are now, we want to help you get to the next steps, the next space. So we really hope you can join us. We'll put that information back up again at the end of the presentation. All right, as I said, we want to make this interactive and engaging. So we're going to have some poll questions. And here is the first one that will pop up on your screen if you would vote for us. What percent of Americans use AI every week? 66, 77, 88, or 99%. So take a second. It's anonymous. We don't know what you vote for. Just take a second to do that. All right, let's go ahead and, no, everybody didn't vote, but for the sake of time, let's see what you guys said. Looks like the majority was, what, 77%, followed by 88, 66, and only 7% of you said 99%. But guess what, you 7%? You were correct. The answer is 99% of Americans use AI every single week. So basically, if you're not Amish, you're using AI. You don't even know it probably. I'm going to give you 10 common ways that we use AI in everyday life. Think about these things. For example, you're using it right now because we're on Zoom. Zoom uses AI in multiple ways, monitoring audio, video quality, note-taker devices, things like that, all kinds of things. If you have a spam email filter, that's AI reading your email, deciding what's good, what's not. It's not always totally correct, but it is helpful. GPS, I couldn't get anywhere without my GPS navigation apps on my phone, making all those decisions for you, best routes, considering traffic and construction and weather and things like that. That's all AI. Using voice to text on your phone or other devices instead of typing it all out. That's another one. Autocorrect. Where would we be without autocorrect these days, right? Whether it's your phone, whether it's predicting text in your email and Microsoft Word, any of those things now. That's a form of AI. Any kind of social media uses algorithms that are AI to determine what you see based on your interactions. If you thumbs up something, you thumbs down something, it's AI choosing what you see. It's even in our homes. if you've got a Nest thermostat, if you've got a Ring doorbell, if you've got a Roomba vacuum cleaner, they all use AI. Also, our phones. When we unlock our phone with our face, as is very common these days, that is AI analyzing what it sees and comparing it to the images on file. Siri and Alexa and those digital assistants, those are all pure AI. We're interacting with them, and we even wear it. If you have a Fitbit or an Apple Watch, some kind of device like that, they also have smart scales now, is tracking our health data, hopefully helping us make better decisions. So those are all some common ways that we use AI. Here's the thing. AI is very big. There are 34 different kinds of AI. I can name one, I think, which is the one we're going to talk about today. But if you think about AI as the whole world, generative AI or Gen AI is like North America. And if you don't know what Gen AI is, we're going to talk about it in a minute. It's the kind of AI that ChatGPT is. And ChatGPT is like New York City. ChatGPT is big, New York's big, but it's not the whole world, okay? AI is very big, and you don't have to understand it all, but be aware that you do use it all the time, even if you don't think about it. So something I always stress is that AI is a tool. It's easy to get overwhelmed and feel like, what is this thing? But really, it's just a tool like anything else. Think about it like a hammer, right? When it comes to tools, there's a right time and a wrong time to use them. Also, you got to use the right one for the job. Hammers can be very helpful for some things, not for other things. You got to be taught how to use it properly as well. Hopefully, you wouldn't give a hammer to a toddler and say, here, good luck, right? You're going to teach them how to use it. And tools aren't good or bad. They're just things. AI is the same way. So some people are like, is AI evil? Is AI great? It's just a tool. Now, what people do with it can be good or bad. That's the human factor. So just try not to get overwhelmed. Just come back to that. It's just a tool. Keep that in mind. This is something interesting that I just came across a couple weeks ago, is that most people don't really know how AI works. And we're not going to get super technical here, but 45% of people surveyed thinks that when you ask like ChatGPT a question, it's looking up the exact answer in some giant database. 28% think that it's guessing what words should come next based on patterns that it learned. 21% think it's following a script of pre-written responses. And my favorite, 6% of people think that it's having a human in the background writing an answer. So that would explain why they make mistakes, because imagine how fast they would have to type, right, if that was a human being. The correct answer is the second one. It's all about patterns. It's all about data, predicting what you want based on what it knows about you. There's no magic database with all the answers in the world, and there's certainly no person typing really, really fast. So, as I said, we're going to focus on generative AI or Gen AI today, because that's the kind that's really impacting schools in the last few years. The definition, very basic, of generative AI are chatbots that create content. So you've heard of some of them. ChatGPT was basically the first one, but there's been so many since then. Google has Gemini. There's Claude, which has been in the news a lot lately. I really like Claude. Perplexity is great for research. NotebookLM is also a Google product. These are some of the big dogs. Of course, Microsoft has Copilot. Elon Musk has Grok. There's all kinds of different ones. So I am curious. I would love for you to type into the chat, in what ways do you use AI chatbots, either for your professional life or for your personal life? Just share some ways that you use these chatbots. I can tell you that I use AI chatbots every single day for work purposes, research, putting things together, proofreading, idea development. For personal use, I don't really Google stuff anymore. I use Perplexity to find the answers I need, or guidance or things like that. Let's see what we got in the chat. Recipe, storyboarding, thought partner, research, proofreading, tech support. That's good. Research, brainstorming, thinking partner. Yeah. Interior decorating, travel planning, wordsmithing. That's great. Creating messages, refining your writing, brainstorming, agendas. Oh, yeah. Using it for data survey, summarizing, Excel formulas. So much great stuff. Task manager, research, brainstorming. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Providing descriptions for Getty Images. Awesome. So some of the benefits of Gen AI are they save time. They can do things in seconds that would take a human hours, days, months. They're free or cheap. Most of them have a free tier, and then if you want to use more, you have to pay for it. But usually they're not too expensive. They're also readily available. If you have internet access, you can access these. You don't need any special software or anything like that. And they're easy to use in the sense that you're just talking back and forth. It's called Chat GPT for a reason, because you're talking to a robot. You don't have to use special coding language or anything like that. You just use plain English. Now, we do have to tell you that Gen AI is not perfect. It can provide wrong information. It can hallucinate, which is where it just makes stuff up. Like you can ask it like, hey, what color is grass? And it'll be like, oh, it's purple, of course. And you're like, what? What are you talking about? And it won't even be able to explain it. It's got some weird quirks about it. It can also misunderstand requests, what you want from it. So a phrase you'll often hear in the AI world is a human in the loop, which means AI is very helpful, but you are the one in control. You need to review the information, decide if you agree with it, if it's accurate, if you want to use it, make changes to it, because ultimately you're going to be the one responsible, right? If you do something at work that ChatGPT tells you to do and something really bad happens, who's the boss going to take it out on, you or ChatGPT? You, right? So I want to make this clear. There's a difference between open AI programs and closed AI programs. And it's kind of confusing because the company that owns ChatGPT is called OpenAI, but that's not what I'm talking about. So there's OpenAI programs like ChatGPT that have little or no data privacy. They're out there free in the open. They collect your data. They are eventually going to target you with advertising. They're not really safe for school use. But then there are programs that are closed, which have built-in data security, which don't expose the data to the outside world, outside of the network. School AI is a form of closed AI. Notebook LM would be one as well. Copilot, if you have it at your work, would be a closed AI. These are the ones that are much safer to use, especially when you're talking about sensitive information and school information. If you're not familiar with the term PII, it stands for personally identifiable information. Usually I tongue twist on that one, but I got it out this time. So these are private things that you really shouldn't put into open AI systems, things that you don't want the whole world to know about you. And my general rule is, if you wouldn't put it on a billboard, don't tell it to an open AI chatbot. People let their guard down because they think, oh, there's no stranger danger here because I'm not talking to a person, I'm talking to a robot. But you know what? People can get access to that data and they can use it for bad things. I've been getting a lot of questions lately about water usage in AI. You probably have heard about this as well. So I've done some research. I'm no expert on this part by any means, but we think about data being in the cloud, right? There's this concept of the cloud. The cloud's not really in the sky. There are physical locations on Earth where all this data is stored. They require massive amounts of storage, more and more all the time. If you're in a small rural area, you might have big tech companies right now trying to buy land from you to put something like this together. And I'm not here to advise you on whether you should do that or not, but I would say do your research and ask a lot of questions before you make a decision. Now, all these systems, these AI systems, require water for cooling because they're computers. But the good news, I guess, is that they don't use that much water. You really shouldn't feel guilty about using a chatbot in the grand scheme of things. So one interaction with the generative AI tool uses a few drops of water, and that water is reused to cool again. It's not like it's just totally wasted. If you stream music for an hour on Spotify or something like that, it uses about a cup of water. If you scroll through social media for about an hour, that's a large glass of water being used. And the real kicker is, if you're on a 1 hour video meeting or you're streaming Netflix or something like that, it can be 2 to 12 liters of water used. So in the grand scheme of things, talking to a chatbot isn't really making much difference. And again, that water is reused. There are environmental concerns. And as I said, I'm not an expert on any of this, but I get a lot of questions about it. So I wanted to put a little out there. Okay, so those are some basics. Let's shift gears now and talk about teachers and students and AI. AI is in every school, I assure you, whether you like it or not, whether you know it or not. There are great ways that it can be used. There are some concerns that we're going to address as well. Here's the big problem, is there is a big gap between students and teachers. 90% of teenagers use generative AI tools on a regular basis. The other 10 are probably lying, right? What percent of teachers have had any kind of training on AI? The number is about 48%. Now, that number is going up, I can tell you, but we still have a problem here, right? Almost double the amount of teenagers are using these programs, and the teachers don't have the experience. They're not getting the training they need, the quality information to address it in class. A lot of them just don't even know what to say because they're not getting guidance. Matt, I'm going to let you talk for a little bit.
Yeah, appreciate that, Mark. So, another comment spot to put something into the chat. How many hours per week do you think teachers spend on non-teaching tasks? So that could include, emails to families, grading, looking for resources, administrative work, etc. What do you think is the amount of time a teacher spends per week not actually teaching students?
Just throw a number out there.
I'm curious to see what the chat says.
15, 25, 20, 12, 20. Like a lot of 20s, 8, 15. Well, here's your answer. According to Edweek, at least.
I'm going to guess a fair amount of folks in the chat probably have lived that life themselves. Mark and I, we obviously have as well. But teachers spend a ton of time doing a lot of those tasks that add up. And I think, Mark, the next slide kind of like really breaks those numbers into how, if they're working with AI, they can start to save some time with that. So, getting help writing that newsletter to families, getting help, going through data, uh, endless opportunities to create resources for their students. Teachers are typically saving about 6 hours per week when using AI tools. You can do the math, that's 24 hours a month, and that's over 216 hours per school year. Having walked those shoes for over a decade, I know how many hours I spent at home, getting to school early, staying late. So being able to peel back 6 hours per week is such an important thing for all the things that are on teachers' plates right now.
Absolutely.
So we kind of dabbled on this a little bit for teacher uses with AI. I saw that in the chat for the way a lot of you are using it for communication. How can I reach out to families or do a newsletter or have ways of keeping everybody up to date for what's going on in our classrooms and our schools? Lesson planning. We'll dive into this one a little bit later on, but how can I take the things I've already created and grow them? How can I try new ideas, especially for brand new teachers, teachers with multiple preps, meaning they're teaching multiple different sections of something? Such a huge component. Content creation. How can we encourage those teachers to be creative and to keep thinking outside the box and making awesome learning experiences for their students? Differentiation. I think this is the one that really gets me excited as a former educator. Just a couple of years ago, without the use of AI, this could feel like a really, really heavy task. How do I make small groups for my students? How do I come up with all of these individual tasks for them to work on? And how can I start to use AI to actually give kids their own individualized experience? Really, really powerful things. Language translation tools. More and more schools are having students show up who have spoken very little English, or some. I was talking to school last week. They had some students show up recently that were from Mexico that didn't even speak Spanish. They spoke, I believe, an Aztec language. And so this school in central Kansas is trying to figure out how can we help these students, these families, and found some language translation AI tools to support them along the way. So really, really, really cool things for them. And then data analysis. I heard Mark talk about it earlier. I know as an educator, that could be something that really could take up a lot of time and not always feel like I had the time to do it thoughtfully. How can I work with that? And that line across the bottom is so key. Using AI is a skill and not a shortcut. Whenever using AI in education purposes, the goal is not to remove the teacher or the administrator from the equation. It's really to try to give them a superpower. It's really trying to empower them to do more with less, which is so important at this time.
I've never met a teacher who said, I wish I had more to do, more stuff to do.
Absolutely. So what's really big right now is teachers and their districts are trying to figure out what's our vision and what's our plan. And I know Missouri School Board Association has some great resources that Mark can tell you about as we continue on, and School AI does as well. We have a campaign where we can meet with anybody free of charge and just kind of talk about how do we roll this out so that it makes sense for your district and your students and your teachers. So important is how do we communicate it to teachers? If we could think a couple of slides ago to what Mark was talking about, kids have a head start on a lot of educators. So we need really thoughtful plans for teachers, and we need tools that are going to empower those teachers so that when kids are using AI or when they're using AI in their building, they have control, they have insight, because those kids, they've got a head start, a lot of them. Got to provide the training and support that they need. This is something that's going to become huge for professional development. This is not going to be that 1 hour session that we do in August and we come back to it a year or two later. It's going to need to be something consistently attacked on by schools because it's got to be that ongoing conversation.
So that's a look at teachers. And now, Matt, let's take a look at some ways that students can use AI in positive ways in their work.
Perfect. So for students, how can they conduct research? How can they go about finding lots and lots of great resources in a shorter amount of time, being able to sleuth through those and find the ones that fit great? We talked about that individual instruction earlier. How can we use AI to tutor students so they can get the individual support that they need for the individual skills that they are struggling with or need support with? Brainstorming, so exciting. How do we get kids to really have the ability to interact with AI and think big, whether it's something like a writing project or something like a STEM class and inventing something? Role playing is great. I was working with a school recently. They were using School AI as a way to help students in a special education program work on interviewing for jobs. So they would have the AI take on the role of an interviewer, and then students were able to go back and forth and get that practice in. Translation, talked about it earlier as well. So important for schools right now, especially as we have kids who are working with multiple languages. How can we empower teachers? I know when I was an undergraduate, I didn't really get any training on English as a second language. Students and
Oh, I think Matt froze.
college, but
There we go.
something that I know a lot of teachers need support with. And then studying, of course, as well. How can kids use it to get that individualized practice they need?
Absolutely. So there's a lot of great things that can happen with AI in schools, but it seems like a lot of people go to the elephant in the room, which is cheating. They think, oh, it's just being used for cheating. So we have a poll for you now. And again, these are anonymous, but I'm curious what you think. Since the launch of ChatGPT, cheating in school has decreased, stayed the same, slightly increased, or greatly increased. So take a second to vote on that poll, and I will tell you the answer. I can tell you, especially for folks who are not in the education world, this is usually where their brains go when they hear AI in school. Because there's a lot of unknown about it. There's a lot of ignorance around it. I travel the whole country presenting on AI in school, so I know a thing or two about it. All right, let's take a look here and see what the poll says. 48% said stayed the same, 39% slightly increase, and then we had a little bit for the others as well. Well, this data is done by Stanford. They survey high school students. So 3 years ago, before ChatGPT, a little over 3 years ago, the percentage of students who admitted in an anonymous survey to cheating was 60 to 70%. Now, when I do this presentation in person, it's always interesting because half the people in the room go, oh my gosh, it's that high. And the other half are like, I'm surprised it's not higher. So you probably have mixed feelings about that as well. But today, that they survey high school students about cheating, and guess what percent admit to cheating? 60 to 70%. So we don't have a technology problem. We have a cheating problem. Those numbers are high. That's a whole conversation for another day, another presentation that I do sometimes about cheating. But it's not the fact that AI is now available. It's the fact that kids are going to cheat. Certain kids are going to cheat no matter what. They're going to use the tools available to them. Now there's a tool to do it even faster, do it even easier, and that's what they're using. So it's an interesting, if you go through history, anytime there's been a new technology emerge, it's really shaken up the education world. So in the 80s, it was personal calculators starting to become common in the schools. In the 90s, it was the internet, right? You can go online and find essays and put your name on them and turn them in. In the 2000s, it was cell phones. Even before the invention of the iPhone, it was kids are texting answers under the desk to each other and cheating on their tests and stuff like that. And now it is AI. What is cheating? How do we address it? So it's not a new problem, right? Now, one thing that some schools are turning to are these AI detection programs. Turnitin has been around a long time to detect plagiarism, and now they have a tool to detect AI use as well. The problem is these tools are not reliable. And here's a classic example of that. Someone took the Declaration of Independence and put it in Turnitin.com, and it said it was 97.75% written by AI. So unless somebody had a time machine, I don't think that's true. This is a common thing. A lot of English language learners are, struggling. They're getting flagged because they write very formulaic. Neurodivergent students are getting flagged a lot. There's race issues as well. If you're going to use something like this as a scare tactic, that's about as much as it's good for. But teachers need to review anything that's flagged and make sure that it really is cheating, all right? You also have students on the other side of things who are so worried about being accused of using AI that they're actually dumbing down their work. Look at these quotes. Kids are dumbing down the work they are submitting in school to avoid being accused of using AI. And here's one from a student. My best friend doesn't use big words in essays anymore. There's too much risk of a teacher thinking she's using AI, and it's too hard to prove that you didn't use it. Just as hard as it is to prove somebody did use it, it's hard to prove that they didn't use it. And I do an activity when I talk about plagiarism in person where we read essays and we look at which one was written by AI, and very rarely are people able to tell what's written by a human versus what's written by AI. The good news is teachers got this. Look, cheating's not new. Cheating has been around as long as school has existed, all right? The key really is for teachers to know their students and their abilities. Know what their writing looks like, know their abilities, know their handwriting, all these key things, which is part of being a good teacher. They also need to talk about proper and improper AI use in schools. A big thing is we can't focus just on detection. We need to rethink the assignments that we're giving, make them more AI proof, make them more authentic, more engaging, harder to cheat on. And this is a common tool that you'll see these days in classrooms. It's called the stoplight technique, where teachers disclose to students what they can do with AI on a particular assignment. So red light means you can't use AI at all for this activity. Yellow light means you can use it in these specific ways, maybe brainstorming, maybe proofreading. Green light means go for it, go wild. Maybe it's a creative project or something like that. So this is a common tool that you see, not just in elementary, it looks kind of kiddie-ish, but they're using it in high school and college as well. So because Matt is here for School AI, we're going to give him a few minutes to talk about School AI and show it to you if you've never seen it before. And then we're going to come back and talk about some of the safety and security concerns regarding AI, as well as some of the policy issues, as well as outlook on careers. But I'm going to take a drink of water because I'm not a robot, and I'm going to turn things over to Matt for a few minutes.
Perfect. Thank you, Mark. So a lot of what we've talked about so far today is how do we support teachers and students in this new AI journey? School AI was created specifically to help teachers and students and administrators and families and everyone use AI in a really thoughtful way in education. We talked earlier about the safety protocols. We'll dive into those as we go, but we are meant to be used by schools. We don't have any of our model used to train the large language models that we work with. What that basically means is none of the stuff that teachers and students are inputting is going back into the cloud to improve those models. That's not how we work. It's just this one-way system for teachers and students to work with, but not to learn from them as they're going. There's three main ways that we can support schools. The first one we're going to talk about is called Spaces. That is, how do we get teachers, how do teachers get students to use AI safely and effectively, and as we just spoke about recently, with academic integrity? So what teachers can do is they can create a space. There are lots of ways to do that, but what's important to know is when teachers create or find a space, they do not have to be AI experts themselves. They can use traditional language to build it, and then School AI will work with them to make a really great space for students. So the one that I am going to show you today is a Boston Tea Party debate. So what you're seeing on your screen now, this is all that students see when it comes to School AI. They don't see this launch pad and all this. This is only for the educator. Kids only get to School AI when a teacher creates a space and then sends a link for that student to work on. When that student clicks join space, they're going to have their own interactive experience on a particular topic. So for this one, this could be for a social studies or history class. It's a Boston Tea Party debate. It says, welcome, glad you're here. Let's jump in. Was the Boston Tea Party justified? Yes or no? Why do you think that, etc. So we already know we're have kids going down two different paths. Some are going to say yes and some are going to say no, but it's going to give us an individualized experience. I was not the world's best student. I sometimes tried to skate by. I sometimes gave short answers. So was the Boston Tea Party justified? I'm just going to reply yes, because I think that's what School Matt would have done. It says, got it, yes. It doesn't just move on to the next topic. It wants to work with me. What is the main reason for that? And so because it could tell I'm maybe not all the way into this, I have this space set up to give me a little bit of support. Was it about unfair taxes, lack of representation? And maybe my brain would have remembered, oh yeah, there was the whole no taxation without representation. So each student is getting their own experience. They're all giving their own answers, and it's working with me back and forth. What I love about a School AI space is that it is teacher designed, teacher controlled, and teacher monitored. So what the teacher is doing in real time is they have this mission control page right here. This page you're looking at is just for the educator. It is not for the student. So I did this with a group of educators recently. So this is the different people who joined. So I can go into each individual student, and if I come over here, I can see exactly what happened. You can see this is the text that I just did. Nothing is ever hidden from the educator. They see what School AI said and what the students said. And also really important to note that if students do talk about something really big and heavy, in this case, if a student says, I'm thinking of hurting myself, they get that critical alert. It rises to the top of the page. And then when we partner with schools, that also will email the teacher in real folks in the district, like a school counselor, a principal, etc. So what we love about School AI is that it gives teachers the control to build a space. They build the guardrails for what they want the students to do in it, and they have full insights into every single keystroke that is happening. So that's how teachers can support their students. I won't get too deep into this, but the other two things I want to show you, remember, these are just for teachers. Kids are not logging into School AI and seeing this. They have the ability to get help writing lesson plans and worksheets, making assessments and rubrics. For administrators, they can make syllabus or they can make newsletters. For special educators, help writing IEP goals or behavior intervention plans. All of these are going to work where teachers are able to use regular language to work back and forth to build something. And then also we have these great assistants like CodeTeacher, where teachers can come in and they can ask for support or help doing anything. So maybe they have a new English language learner. They've never worked with that population before, and they need some basic tips on how to get started with that student. Any questions they have, anything that pops in their head, CodeTeacher's their all-purpose teaching assistant that can help them with all of that. Tons of assistance here as well. So that was just kind of a little bit to kind of give you an idea of these things we were kind of talking about in a vacuum in the presentation. What can this actually look like when the teacher is diving into it? and how can they get kids to use it safely, effectively, and with academic integrity?
Thank you, Matt. And we'll have your contact information at the end if folks would like to reach out to you for more information or even to set up some time with you to learn more about School AI. We did have a good question Gregory asked in the chat when you were talking about the Tea Party thing.
Mm-hmm.
Curious what an AI debate pulls from the real debate experience. Again, not replacing that experience, but transforming classroom or homework experiences. And I would say, there's a lot of misunderstanding outside the education world that we're trying to get rid of the experiences that kids are having in classroom with their teachers, things like that, where really we're trying to enhance it, where maybe you practice debate online and then you're going to do a debate in class, or those kids who are really shy or have social anxiety who are never going to speak up in class. It's a way for them to get involved. I don't know if you want to add anything there, Matt.
That's exactly what I would have said. And if I'm reading Gregory's message correct, I think that's what he was going for at the end there as well. School AI is a wonderful platform. It can do amazing things in the classroom, but the most important resource in that classroom is still that teacher, and we want them to teach. The goal is not for them to open up a School AI tab and then kids are in that for the 45-minute or hour and a half block. This is another component to all the great teaching they're doing.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. So, ready to feel old? I'm going to give you a couple of numbers here. 2038 seems really far away, doesn't it? Well, it's really not that far away. That is the year that this year's kindergartners are going to graduate from high school. Here's a number for you, 2087. That is pretty far away. What's so special about 2087? That's the year that this year's kindergartners will retire from the workforce. This is not the world that we grew up in, folks. What I learned in school, what I did in school, a lot of it isn't the same anymore because it's not preparing for the world that I grew up in, the world I learned in. It's for the future where we don't even know a lot of the technologies and problems and things that will exist yet, especially in the workforce. But we've got to think about the importance of AI literacy in schools. Again, we're not getting rid of traditional literacy or anything like that, but kids need to learn about this stuff. It's not going anywhere. Trust me. It's only going to get bigger, especially when they get into the workforce. They've got to understand some components of AI literacy, and where better to learn it than school, where they can learn it the right way, right? Incoming college students are expected to have some basic AI competencies now for academic success coming in. 80% of the U.S. workforce will have their jobs affected by AI within the next 5 years. Keyword there is affected, not replaced, but your job will be changing. And future-ready skills for AI-integrated workplaces, competitive edge in the job market. We want our kids to succeed. There's going to be fewer jobs in some fields, but the people who embrace AI and understand it are the ones who are going to get to keep theirs. So that's why we've got to give them the AI literacy skills they need. All right, shifting gears a little bit. We talked about a lot of the positive things about AI, but I have to have a balanced approach. So I'm going to tell you a few of the safety and security concerns as well. I got bad news, guys. Superman's not coming. When it comes to AI, we have to protect our kids in our schools from the threats because there's no government regulation in this country on AI, and there probably won't be anytime soon. And that's because of a couple of reasons. One, because AI is the new arms race. The United States, Russia, China, all the big, powerful countries, they're all trying to develop the biggest, baddest technology, AI. That's so much. I just saw on the news with the Iran bombing, they're bombing AI data centers because that's where the power is these days. The other reason is tech companies like Apple and Microsoft and now ChatGPT's company, they have a lot of power and a lot of influence in American politics. So they're not going to let those regulations happen, which is why we need to educate ourselves and we need to put policies and procedures in place to protect our kids in our schools. So one reason that we need to protect student data is because it's the law. The Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, FERPA, says that student data can't be fed into open AI tools. You've got to make sure that teachers aren't using ChatGPT to analyze student data with their names in it or something like that. COPA, Children's Online Privacy Protection Act says that websites have to get parental consent to collect PII. We talked about PII earlier. If you're under 13, websites include chatbots. And the Children's Internet Protection Act says that schools have to use technology to monitor and filter what kids are seeing and doing online. That now includes chatbots as well. So not only is it the law, but there's some scary things that can happen to your data when it's put out there in an open program. It can be stored, analyzed, shared without your knowledge or control. It can be sold to third parties, used for targeted ads, incorporated into system training. It can, if there's a breach, there's no such thing as totally safe data. If it's breached somehow, it can be impersonation, unauthorized account access, scams, all kinds of scary stuff. So again, we got to teach them what it's safe and not safe to put into OpenAI programs. Be sure that we're only using closed programs in our schools, like School AI, programs like that are a lot safer. What can we do about this? Education is so big, stranger danger, right? It's not enough anymore because people let their guard down. They're like, I'm not talking to a person, I'm talking to a robot. Yeah, well, there's still people involved. We've got to establish policies and procedures to protect that student PII, and we've got to vet those tools before they're used to ensure that they do not collect student PII. I can tell you there are hundreds of education tech companies right now trying to sell you, your district, some tool, some whiz-bang awesome AI tool, because AI is the gold rush. The problem is most of them aren't really safe. They don't protect student data, and they don't use quality outputs. I only support 3 tech companies for ed tech companies for AI, one of them being School AI, because we have done our research. We know it's safe for students. We know it provides quality information. Shifting gears to deepfakes. If you don't know what a deepfake is, you need to know. It doesn't matter if you use ChatGPT or programs like that or not. Deepfakes are images, video, audio that are created or altered using AI to mimic real people or events. They can be made in minutes. They're easy to make, and it's getting harder and harder every day to detect them from what's real, right? It's so hard now when you're scrolling through social media, when you're looking at the news. How do you know if something's real or not? And they can be very dangerous. They can be used to spread misinformation. I know we have a lot of school board members joining us. They can be used to attack you in your campaigns. I've heard stories in Missouri about school board members having deepfakes of them saying and doing horrible things to get targeted. It can attack a person's image, like I just said there. It can cause panic or chaos. You might get a video of the school with flames shooting out the top of it, and it's not real, but it's going to cause a lot of panic. Also, they can be used to gain money, passwords, personal information. You need to talk about deepfakes with the older people in your lives, maybe the ones who aren't tech savvy, because they are often targeted in this. Your grandma might get a call that sounds just like her grandson, his voice, saying, "Grandma, I've been arrested. If you don't wire money to this address right now, they're going to lock me up and throw away the key." And grandma panics, right? She's got to know that might not be her grandson. And what can I do to make sure it really is him? Which I would recommend asking personal questions that somebody couldn't easily Google and figure out about you. But talk to the people in your lives about deepfakes. When I started doing AI work 3 years ago, I call it the good old days of deepfakes, because we could tell usually when something was fake. Like you can see these pictures of Mark Zuckerberg. You could tell in the fake one, his face doesn't look right. It's a little off. Or the classic example of counting the fingers. AI used to really struggle with putting the right number of fingers on the hand, but not so much anymore. It's gotten really sophisticated. For example, here's a photo of me that was taken a few months ago. One of my colleagues used a free deepfake program to make a video just out of this picture alone. Just out of this picture. And here is what it looks like. You can see me. It looks like me. I got the right number of fingers. My face isn't fuzzy. It's silly. I ran through the wall. Sometimes people do these to make silly things, but they can also be very dangerous. And they are impacting schools as well. 40 to 50% of students are aware of deepfakes being circulated at their school. 67% of students, 50% of teachers have been misled by deepfakes. I can tell you it's happening in Missouri because I've talked to schools who are like, what resources do you have? Our middle schoolers are bullying each other by making deepfakes of each other and things like that. So it's a very real problem. Here's a story, a cautionary tale out of Baltimore a couple of years ago where the athletic director at the high school did not like the principal. So he made some deepfake audio of the principal saying really bad stuff and then spread it around the internet. Now, in this case, the FBI was actually able to prove that it was a deepfake. But guess what? The community didn't care. It ruined his reputation. He got death threats. His whole family had to pack up, leave town, quit his job. It ruined his life because people just couldn't believe what they heard or what somebody told them they heard wasn't actually true. You've also got the problem of kids making AI nude photos and videos of their classmates, sometimes to bully, sometimes because they just think it's funny and they don't realize the dangers of it. So that's an issue as well. And it's very easy to do. Even underage, there's been recent reports about Grok, especially AI, Elon Musk's AI tool, that's very easy to make child pornography. So what can we do as schools when it comes to deepfakes? Again, we've got to educate everybody, adults and students, what these are, why they're dangerous. We also need to encourage people to think before they share or they act. If you see something on social media, somebody sends something to you, think about it. Does it make sense? Does it seem real? Why would somebody do this? Why would somebody share this before you react to it? And of course, we've got to develop policies and procedures that address deepfakes. It's a form of bullying. It's inappropriate for staff as well. Ethan had a question in the chat. What official guidance are you guys saying with data privacy and PII when using Gemini with an EDU account? That one is a little tricky. And we don't specify by tool. I know Gemini is part of the Google School platform. And my understanding, and I have not researched this myself, but I've heard that if you're using Gemini in Google Classroom, it is a lot more protected, that it is considered closed. But again, don't quote me on that. Find out for sure. But Google has a lot of money and investment in education. They want kids hooked on their tools early, so they're going to do the right things, I think, to protect them so that schools continue to use them. So hopefully that was helpful for you.
Mark, one thing I'd add there, to my understanding, when students are in Gemini, they don't have the ability to turn it on and off. Schools can't the way like a School AI or other people out there can, and that it's just open for student usage. Is that your understanding as well?
I believe so. And if anybody knows otherwise, feel free to correct us in the chat. But
please,
that is a dangerous issue as well, that you just can't turn it off. So let's shift to one other concern. This one is not on as many people's radar, but it's probably the one I'm most concerned about. And this is some data from Common Sense Media that came out late last year regarding teenagers and really the number one reason that teenagers use AI chatbots. It's not for homework or anything like that. It is for companionship. 72% of teens have used AI chatbots for companionship. We're talking friends, parents, romantic partners, all kinds of things. 1/3 of teens find AI conversation as satisfying or more satisfying than human conversations. And 1/3 of teens choose AI companions over humans for serious conversations. And what's interesting is if you talk to the young people in your life and you don't come off accusatory, just kind of ask them like, hey, do you ever tell ChatGPT what's going on in your life or ask it for advice? They'll be like, oh yeah, all the time. Sure. They don't see a problem with that. And here's some quotes from real teenagers. AI is always available. It never gets bored with you. You're always right. You're always interesting. You're always emotionally justified. At one point when I was talking to AI, I forgot it was actually not my friend. Sometimes I use chatbots to practice flirting or get advice about relationships because they don't judge or make fun of me. I feel more comfortable talking about important things with AI than my friends. Sometimes it feels easier. Now, AI can be really good for some things, but it's not good when it comes to having dangerous conversations, especially when you are a teenager. Your brain is not fully developed yet. If an adult wants to use it for some serious things, knowing that it is not real, it is limited, it's going to be wrong, that's one thing. But when teenagers turn to it for things like eating disorders, drugs, alcohol, violence, self-harm, suicide, it can be really scary and really dangerous. And I'm not going to get into details here. I do when I talk about safety in depth, but there's a lot of scary stories in the news lately about young people taking their own lives because programs like ChatGPT encourage them to do so. And that's very scary. And there's really no way to guarantee that it won't do that, which is even more disturbing. There are some things we can do, though. First of all, talk to the young people in your lives. If you're in a school, talk to the students, talk to your kids, your grandkids, whatever, and see, are they using chatbots like that for advice? And educate them that these are chatbots. They're services. They're not designed to advise you on serious topics. Just because they can help you with your schoolwork doesn't mean they can help you with your mental health. Also, districts need to monitor and be sure that devices are observing and reporting any troubling conversations. As Matt showed you with School AI, if they were to say something troubling in there, it would be flagged right away and the teacher would be notified, which is great. And ultimately, the thing we need to do is make sure all students have a trusted adult in their school to confide in. Safety is not the absence of threat, it is the presence of connection. Make sure every kid's got some adult they feel a connection to, that they can trust, that they can go to when they need help. So, AI is great for schools in a lot of ways, but again, we're not getting rid of the people. The people are still the most important. It's not just the teachers, it's the staff, everybody down to the janitor, to the cafeteria workers, you name it. So I want to get to policy because we're kind of running out of time. And Debbie, I see you have a question that I'll get to in a little bit here. Or if Matt, if you have any ideas as well. But I've been telling you for almost an hour, you need policy. So I need to give you this information on policy. Why do you need AI policy? Because AI is not just another website or app. Sometimes people say, well, when Facebook came along, we didn't create a Facebook policy. We didn't create a Google policy. This is much, much bigger than that. AI is not going away. It's only going to keep getting bigger. It's not a fad. There's a lot of lawsuits piling up with schools around the country. As I said, little to no government regulation is coming. So it is in our hands. Districts have options. You could create a standalone AI policy. You could also address AI in other policies like academic honesty, technology use, bullying, things like that. Or what I recommend is having both. Having a standalone one that addresses AI, but then weaving it into other places as well. MSBA has a policy, EHBD, all about artificial intelligence. And you can access, if you're a member, you have access to this, but it's also available in our AI toolkit, which is free, and I will give you the link at the end of this. We launched the first version almost 2 years ago because people were asking for it, and it wasn't perfect by any means. We got a lot of feedback on it. And last fall, we relaunched version 2, which we're pretty happy with. And it seems like a lot of districts are happy with as well. Safety first is our thing. Cautious embrace of AI is what we really stress. We want the policy to be local and flexible. There's 517 school districts in Missouri. One generic policy isn't going to meet everybody's needs. We want room to grow and explore as the new tools come along. Ultimately, human accountability. Again, what we do with AI has to come back to having a human in the loop. And as Matt said earlier about talking to your teachers, it's important to make your staff aware of this. I've had multiple school districts, and I won't name them, who have said, oh, we're thinking about adopting AI policy. And I go to the website, I'm like, you already have our AI policy. Your school board already adopted it, but nobody knows. So it's important that when you do pass a policy, the staff knows about it and what it actually says, and require them to address AI usage in their syllabi and their assignments, things like that, and talk about it as well with their students. That's such an important part. All right, this is our last slide, but I do see we have some questions that we're going to address in just a second, so please don't leave us. We still have a few minutes. But again, I mentioned our AI toolkit. It's totally free. It's an online book. It's like 90 pages long of content to help you navigate all of this. And you can get there by going to mosba.org/AI. Also, if you go to that website, you can sign up to come to our free Spring into AI workshop on April 3rd in Jefferson City. I promise you it's going to be worth it, no matter where your district is at in its journey. Bring a few people with you so you can have those important conversations. Even if you have to drive a couple hours, I mean, it's free. So if you were to pay for something like this from an outside source, I assure you it would be very pricey. You can see my email address as well as Matt's email address. And Matt, tell them about this QR code.
Absolutely. If anything I was talking about today with Mark made you interested in kind of seeing about School AI and what we're doing, you can scan that QR code. It'll take you just to a simple Google form where you can tell me if you're interested in a short phone call just to kind of talk about your thoughts, your concerns, your ideas where you're at, or also if you're interested in seeing a more in-depth demonstration of it for yourself or others, certainly scan that code. It can set that up. And then to Mark's point on the workshop, workshop being a key word there. It's going to be an interactive time getting to create, build, and interact with tools, not just to sit and get. So should be a great time on the 3rd.
Absolutely. And both of us will be there in person. We'd love to meet you. So looking at the chat, we have some questions here. Going back to, we were talking about, can you disable Gemini? Gregory said Firefox now has a feature to block AI bots or toggle on and off, which is helpful. Of course, you have to make sure Firefox is the only browser that your students have access to. Debbie said, do you have any suggestions for reputable AI courses for professionals? Matt, I don't know if you have any suggestions here. I don't have any suggestions on specific courses. I will say that Common Sense Media is a great place to learn about what's going on with AI in schools with students. Do you have any ideas, Matt, off the top of your head?
If they're specifically looking for ways for teachers and students to use it, we have some great free resources to jump into and get teacher and student use cases. For something more broad, I think Common Sense Media is a good place to start.
Great. Allison says, will you be emailing this video link? Yes, I will. Either late today or tomorrow, I'm going to email a link to this video to you, and it'll be a YouTube video so you can share it with others, as well as a PDF of these slides. So you'll have all that information. Gregory said, how do we articulate where we, the district, is using AI in our environment to our stakeholders? Have we seen good examples? Transparency is important. You need to disclose. When it comes to stakeholders, really, you need to, sorry to put more work on you, but you really need to educate everybody, the parents, the community. Why are we using AI? How are we using it? And also, how are we not using it? When it comes to making like hiring, firing decisions, discipline decisions, we're not using it for that. So you gotta make that clear. And MSB is actually working on some tools that should be available in June for districts and they'll be free, for districts to educate their stakeholders on AI. So keep an eye out for those. We'll hype them up when they're available to you, but it's something that everybody needs and something that we're gonna offer as a free service.
Mark, I'd add to that too. I think I'm hearing great use cases from teachers, like modeling how they're using AI with their students. And so being able to show best practice. And then you talked about the human in the loop, also showing when it doesn't do what they wanted them to do, or it goes a different direction, how they are interacting with that. So I think it's a great thing for teachers to model as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, look to your teachers, right? Melissa said the toolkit's been a great resource. Thank you. Some of our teachers are engaging in the online ISTE deep dive for AI course. ISTE is a great resource. I forgot to mention they have a great tool for vetting different tech programs, AI tools as well, and it's free on their website. Lauren, hello, Lauren. University of Central Missouri has an AI course that DESE is funding. Right now, we are out of spots for summer, but watch for more information in the future. And her email address is there. Lauren's awesome. I know Lauren very well. Anybody have any other questions or anything for us? Again, you can always reach out to us. We appreciate you spending this hour with us, and hopefully we haven't overwhelmed you too much. But again, you can rewatch it. You can look back at the slides. Matt, do you have any final words?
No, I appreciate you, Mark, and the great work you guys are doing at Missouri School Board Association, and thank everyone for joining us.
Thank you so much, Matt, and I hope that we will see all of you on April 3rd in Jefferson City. Have a good day.